Hello guys, this is Paula, and I am back now to attach the spine to the books, and let's do it. And also the paper. I'm going to also attach the paper if we have time. Okay, so I've laid my fabric with the side down that we want to be the spine, so the printed side in this case. And this is going to be the time you want your spine to look just like you want it. Okay, so you're going to even out both sides to make sure it fits, and that you have plenty that attaches to your book cover. So we're going to do like this, and you're going to leave a little space right there. And you want it to be the same at the top as it is at the bottom. This allows for, some give for the pages to turn. Yeah. And then this side will be the same way. Okay, so we're going to do one side at a time. So I'm going to set this over, and we're going to do the front cover first. Now, this may be boring to you. I'm going to try to fix my phone because it's leaning for some reason. I'll watch and make sure. I'll just move this over for now. I'll watch and make sure you guys can see. All right, so the first thing you do is you put the glue on the portion of the spine that you're going to attach to your fabric. Well, I should be able to end this glue in this video, and I am so ready. Now, a lot of people have trouble with the spine bleeding through the fabric, so I line mine to help it a little. I still get bleed through, and I don't put a heavy coat on, because like right now I am, but I will be smoothing that out. Whoops. Oh, great. This is why you use new glue, Paula. Got it on the book. I just don't want a big clump on there. Okay. So I always try to get it on the edges because you don't want those coming up. Now, some people don't put very much glue at all, and to each their own. But I can put glue on the... I think we're actually losing it. It's empty. I can put glue on every inch. And I've had books separate before I even get finished with them. Now, not any that I've sewed, but anyway, it happens sometimes, and this is about the strongest thing you can get to try not to let that happen. So, but it does. It does. Okay, so I think this is enough. And I'm going to spread it out with this piece of paper. Now, when I do that, I want to make sure there's no area without glue, because those are the areas that can get, I guess I would call them air pockets. Who knows what it's called, but I call them problem areas. Then we'll go back right here. This area doesn't have any. Right here is really bare. And then you just go over those bare spots. This is how I do. Now, people would say when you put this much, you get bleed through. Well, you're going to get bleed through anyway. You're going to get some bleed through anyway. And I don't want the spine to come apart on my customers. So, and honestly, the bleed through, in my opinion, is not even noticeable. Okay. But everyone has it. Okay, so this is where it needs to be. So I'm going to straighten it up here, and I'm going to lay it in the very center as best I can, because you want your fabric to be straight, but you also want to make sure you have the same amount on the front as you do the back. See, because we've got this. Okay, so then once I feel like it's in place, I really press it down. You can get, you know, a roller or whatever. And, but if you're putting weight on it, that sucker's going down. Now, I'm going to look and see if we got bleed through. There's really nothing else you can do about it. I haven't had one fabric that hasn't had bleed through in one little spot. Excuse me. You know, it's just how it is. Oh, no bleed through. Well, we got some glue right there, which came off of me dropping it probably. But because it wouldn't have come through like that. But I can just wipe that off and be good. Now, I feel like that's a good start so this glue right here, I may not be able to get off. It doesn't seem to, I know it's not bleed through, but oh well. It will act like bleed through. Doesn't feel sticky. Okay. So if my mat might have not been clean, I'm going to wipe it real quick. I am really pretty good about cleaning my mat every time I use it, because I'll forget if I don't. All right, so I'm going to rub on this side too. That's the reason, one of the main reasons I rolled it over. I want to make sure it has every opportunity to stick. It can have no excuses. And everybody does this different, but I'm going to put this little spot at the bottom, but I don't think it's anything to be concerned about, because this stuff usually dries clear. Oh, it does dry clear. Not usually. It actually does. Okay, so we're gonna want this to be right up against this like that. Okay, and so I think, since I can write on the book this time, let me flip this over. I'm just gonna mark how far I need the glue to be. I don't like it to clump up. Okay, so I've got my small space. I'm not going to have a lot hanging over onto the book itself, because I'm going to cover this portion with the paper. So I don't know what I'm doing. I need it on this side. I'm going to start putting the glue here. And I'm going to look at where I marked it and stay within those perimeters. Now, if you have leakage in this situation, it's not going to be that major deal, because we're going to put the paper over. But also you have to remember that this is what keeps the book and the spine together. So you want it to be, plenty of glue on there. And you want it on the edges. Those are always important. Now, in this situation, I'm just going to do it like this, rather than using my little piece of paper. Okay, so I'll see what happens. Now we're going to put it as close as we can. Try to make the top the same size as the bottom. Now, if we put too much glue on this, it's not going to count. It's not going to matter. Now, if you were doing a little golden book, for instance, and you didn't want to cover the cover, you would have to be very careful about getting it too close to the edge of your fabric, because that will be shown. And once it dries, you're not going to be able to get it off. So I'm pushing here, and then when I get done pushing on this side, I'm going to flip it over and push on the front side, and make sure that there's not any laying underneath there attaching itself to something else. Okay, like there's some glue right there. That's what I want to clean up. Now you can see what I'm talking about. See that seepage? I'm going to wipe that off, but in this situation, I don't have to get it perfect, because I'm going to be able to cover it up. But if I were doing a little golden book, that would tell me that I put too much fabric to the end of my my book. I'm going to trim off all these strings. Now see, this doesn't look super great. I'm not real concerned, because you're not going to be able to see this. There we go. That's enough to keep it from getting on the mat, maybe. Okay, so we want to do the other side the exact same way. I'm trying to find my book. Oh, there it is, right in front of my face. If it'd been a snake, it would have bit me. So again, I'm going to line this up. Well, I'm going to turn it over to line it up so I can mark on there. And then I'm going to put that little spot there. You want to line your spine cardboard or chipboard up even with the front and the back cover. So, you know, everything has to be even. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to stay inside our perimeters. I just dropped a big blob on the table. Okay, now I'm just going to hit this and make it as straight as I can. If it gets out on this one, you can tell I'm just not really going crazy about it. It's not worrying me. Now I'm going to flip it over. And I want it to go back in the same spot that we had. Let me make sure you guys can see. Okay. I get busy and I forget to look up there sometimes. All right. Okay. Push this down. Now I'm getting a little bit of, oh, there went my basket. That's all right. I'm getting a little bit of glue down inside that area, which is fine too. I'm getting my little tool, and in the process of getting my little tool, I knocked my scrap book over, but nothing spilled out of it. So that's called a mercy fall. It had mercy on me. Okay, so I am going to keep pushing down on this. Push over here. I really want these to attach. Now, I'm going to flip them over. Make sure there's no glue on here. Yeah, there is right there. Actually, I got more glue this time because I was a little bit less careful. Okay, now we're going to flip it on this way. And you can see there's quite a bit of glue there. And I will get that. I'm going to give it a minute this time to kind of dry, so I don't have to. I got a little black spot right there. I think it'll get better. And the fact that we have this funky fabric, it will be fine. Okay, now I'm going to wipe this glue off right here the best I can. Then we're going to roll over to the other side as soon as I push on this. I forgot to push on this when I was over here earlier. I just want it to... And you don't want glue on your fingers when you do this because you will spread it onto your fabric. This portion on the edge will show a tiny bit. So you just want to make sure... I don't know what this is either. It must be glue. Yeah. That's the nice thing about it. You allow yourself plenty of time to do this. Don't try to do this when you're in a hurry, because you'll end up regretting it unless you're an expert at this, you know. All right, so now I'm going to flip it back over. And the next thing we do is add the fabric on the inside. It's done basically just like that. But before we do that, we're going to do this end and pull it up. Okay? Let's see. I'm going to wipe off my glue a little bit. Okay, I'm going to come down here so you can see. I am actually going to put it on the glue on the fabric instead of on the book itself. While you do this, you put it, pretty, plenty, but you also want to take, and I'm going to lift this to show you. You don't need to do this when you're doing it at home, but I'm going to put glue up against the edge really good right there. And I'm going to put glue in between the book right there. Now, what you're going to do, and I do it like this. You don't have to do it like this, but I bring it up and I kind of just put a little pressure on it. So, it can have a second to adhere to the edge or end of the book. And then I just bring it down like that. Make sure my end is down well. And then you just flip it back over. Make sure there's no glue over here where we did that. And there was. Okay. Now we have, this is where the work comes in. You want to make sure your fingers are dry, are clean. I feel like mine are constantly dirty with glue. So I'm just pulling this over and making sure it's adhering nicely, pressing it down, making sure the sides are down, and just take your hand and kind of pull it that way. Now, after you do that, I have no idea what the name of this is, but I use a tip this size. I think a lot of people have these, but anything, you could put anything in there that won't cut the fabric, and we're going to go like this. We want this to adhere inside this crack. There's not a perfect science to this. You just want it to adhere. Now, if you think you get in the glue, you need to make sure you wipe off your tool, okay? I'm not going to take a chance. I'm just going to do it. Now, you might have to go back and manipulate this again. So, be watching to make sure everything adheres while you're working on the other portion of the book. Okay, I'm going to wipe that off. I'm telling you, that was on my fingers. Okay, so now we're going to flip the book around. Okay, and make sure you can see. Okay, we're going to do this end the same way. So I'm going to put it on the fabric, go all the way around. Okay, then I'm going to add it along the edge of the book. So you just want to put it up against the edge of the book and squeeze while you do that. Okay, and then we're going to put some right in here. Okay, now bring it up and let it set there for a minute. When you dry your books, okay, we're going to glue the paper on the inside and the outside. But when you dry your books, you want to make sure you lay them flat. Don't leave them bent. You want them to be laid flat. Okay, now let's bring it up and see what we got going under here. Any glue? Oh, we did better on that one then. Okay, so now you're going to take your fingers and push. And sometimes if you put too much glue, you're going to know it because it's going to ooze out. But in this situation, it doesn't matter because we're going to cover that up. And I think more than anything, what has a tendency to ooze through is where you put this in the seams. And the reason I say that is that's where I have noticed a big part of mine have been. Now you want to watch because see, this wants to have a little air pocket there, and so I'm thinking, why is that doing that? So I'm going to lift it and pull it. Use the side of my hand, but it's still, there's glue that's seeping through or trying to seep through, so both sides of the fabric are wet. Not soaking wet, but wet enough that it can catch air pocket, and if you don't get them out when the glue's wet, they'll stay there for good. I've only had a couple books do that, but I'm probably overly crazy about it, you know. Then I'm going to push. Now see the glue coming out there? That's okay. I will end up spreading that down in through there because we're going to have to add it there too. Then you clean your tool before you go back on the fabric. And then this will have an opportunity to dry because we're going to put the other fabric over the top. Yeah, see that one is pulling the fabric. These sides may get pulled in a little bit because we're, pushing them in, and then I always push this down. Okay, so that's drying. Let's see if this one's drying. Okay, it is. We'll have to clean up all that. Okay. But see, these little inside seams start to float up even after they've been dried even after you've had them down in there and it looks like they're going to stay. They almost always, you have to go over them several times as you're working. And you want to go all the way to the outside and do that. Okay. Let's go back here and check this one. This one's still wetter than the other side. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and start our next step. And as we're doing it, we're going to keep an eye on this down here. Make sure those are staying in their little well. I don't know what you call them. Little stream. Who Who knows? I'm wiping off the fabric because it, you know, it looks like I had glue on my finger and I didn't see it. But anyway, so now don't worry about this where I dropped a little glue earlier because it's going to be covered also. Yeah, all right. So this is going to be a short video right here with this portion. And then as soon as this dries, I'm going to come back and we're going to put the papers on, okay? I just wanted to let you know that you really need to, if you're going to put paper on it, you really need for this to dry. Now see, because this pulled itself in, this isn't even. But again, it's not that big a deal in this situation. But if you were doing any other book, it would look like that if you didn't do something with this. But I usually cover this section with lace or ribbon, or usually ribbon on the inside. But I'll add lace to the outside or some kind of design type thread or whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to just barely put a little bit of glue on the edge of this fabric. I don't know how much fabric we're going to have on the inside. Go ahead and fill your tunnel. Now I'm calling it a tunnel. It's because I don't know what to call it. It's the spine well. See what else we can think of. The spine well. I don't know. Anyway, you always want to make sure you get glue down into the spine well. Okay, then put a little bit on this fabric down here. Now, you look back at your spine and make sure that you have plenty of glue in there, but not enough that you're going to flood everything, okay? And we're going to put some right here. We kind of do all this part together. Now this is where I have to take that paper and I like to spread it out, especially on this portion. That way we don't have any spaces to get air bubbles. There's still no guarantee, I will tell you that, because I've been real careful about it. I've seen people just put their finger on there and do it. I am not that person. This glue drives me crazy enough. Okay, then you just kind of put glue on top of the bare spots. And you don't have to worry about it then. Okay, now let me go over it one more time. Okay, there we go. So now, if you were doing this book, I would put the top, like if you had children playing, I'd put the children in the right direction. If they're going all different directions, then you don't have to worry about it. Or if you have florals or something that's just kind of rub down the middle once you get it lined up and kind of work on the middle first. You want to smooth it out. This fabric is a good fabric. I got it at Joann's. You know how you can buy the little squares of fabric? I think it's like 20 or 25 by 20 or 25. So now I'm going to press on the outside portion. Make sure that's all sealing up here on the spine and down here on the spine. Okay, so now you're going to take your little tool and you're going to have this is going to come up on you. And when it does, you might have to push it down 5 or 6 times. But when it does, you push it right back down. Like see, just then I had glue seep out onto this very end. You want to get that up if it's on the outside. I have not ever taken a bookmaking class. I need to take some. I want to take some of, there's from Nick the Booksmith, and I want to take some, and I might do that for my Mother's Day gift. And then I want to do some of Mrs. Coggs, because she's such a perfectionist, and I think there's a lot you can learn from her. Okay. All right. So I found the fabric that I'm going to, or the, you guys, I found a quilt that is primary colors. What's the odds? So I'm not going to have to quilt our book. It's already going to be quilted, but it is vintage, and it has a lot of places that need to be repaired. So I got to figure out how to do that, but it's old. You can tell it is. I washed it on Delicate Cycle, and, you know, I babied it and everything, and it cleaned up pretty well, so. But that's the fun thing about having a book cover or anything. When it's old, it makes it more precious to you. Okay, and it looks like our seams are staying down really well. I think we are successful. I still am over here putting weight on it because I'm always paranoid. Okay, so whenever you do this, be sure you go to the end of the book and catch that other part we did. And make sure all this is glued down. Now, this is this side. We want to make sure everything's down. And you also want to go down. You can go into the spine alley. We can call it the bowling alley. Now, I told you that usually when you have a leak onto your, through your fabric, it has to do with this alley. And right there is a perfect example. See, it just barely has some, but it has some right there and right there. And that's, I mean, you're pushing on it, you know. You're more likely to send it into a tailspin. Now remember, when you do it on this side, you still want to make sure the edges stay down. This side is not as critical. Some people don't even do this side at all. I don't worry about this that much. I go over it till I can see it, and then, you know, if it comes back up, as long as the inside stays down, I'm happy. So that's how I look at it. I'm going to see if I can. Yeah, it wants to seep through on this. It's so weird. I don't know why it wants to do that, but I'm assuming it's because you press on it. And now's the time, if you're going to use a rag or anything, don't scrub, because I've done that before. It makes it worse. So be sure and come back and see part 2 of the book, the spine and cover, or cover and spine, whatever you want to call it. See, all of that has stayed in. It's because I worked it over. This one right here is the loosest one, so I'll have to keep an eye on that. But otherwise, we have our spine fabric on. Soon as it dries, I'm going to give it an hour or so, and as soon as it dries, I will come back on and we'll add the paper. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video today. Again, if you're making or doing this sort of thing, you want to make sure you take your time and use like Fabri-Tac or some strong glue. It's the only one I trust. So if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please do. And to all my subbies out there, I appreciate you so much. See you guys next time. Bye.